So what are the common denominators of people who live a really long time? Everybody knows that gut health is important. The question is there something in the gut microbiome, in super-agers, 100 and above, that pop out as important? A research study was done out of Italy. Turns out there are 4 bacteria that are standouts in people that live to 100 and beyond.
Really?
Dr. Lee's work has impacted more than 50 million people worldwide.
Dr. William Lee.
Dr. William Lee.
Dr. William Lee.
Dr. William Lee.
Please help me welcome Dr. William Lee.
You know that recently we've discovered that your brain has its own microbiome. We got bacteria that grow naturally, healthily in our brain.
Wow.
And it's 20% the same bacteria that's in our gut. It's actually found in our brain. And we're beginning to realize that gum disease and bacteria that are either growing or not growing in your mouth might actually be one of the trigger points for dementia.
What are the key foods that we can eat to cultivate the best bacteria to help us live longer?
Okay, so
welcome back, everyone, to the School of Greatness. Very excited about our guest. We have the inspiring Dr. William Lee in the house. So good to see you. Thank you for being here.
good to see you, Louis. Thanks for having me.
Very excited about this because you've been on the show a couple of times and you've been a researcher, a scientist, a physician for many years, mostly helping people figure out about how to cure cancer. That's kind of where your background is around the cancer world, but you've also gone in different places around medicine and science and research. And currently you're diving in deep into the longevity topic, which is really interesting. We were just talking off camera about a new approach to what you're seeing that the, super Centenarians, I guess, are experiencing. And a lot of people want to know right now how to live longer, but also how to live healthy longer, how to have a good health span as well. Because it's not fun if you live to 100, but for 25 years, you're on machines, you can't walk, you can't move, and you're not healthy. And so I think that's what a lot of people want. So the first question I want to ask you is, why do you think people care so much about being immortal or living for as long as they can? And what are some of the new things that you're seeing in the longevity world?
Great questions. Okay, so first of all, I am a cancer researcher, but I will tell you how I got into cancer research and then ultimately into longevity research. I'm interested in common denominators of health or of disease. So in other words, in academic research, you see people taking an inch of a territory and diving a mile deep, and they're super experts in this stuff. I took a different approach. I wanted to figure out, how everything was interconnected and what are the common denominators between cancer, heart disease, blindness, arthritis, Alzheimer's. Like, if you could drain the Pacific Ocean, how do all those islands connect? And my feeling is that if you could get an economy of scale of knowledge, if you could figure out those connections, you could pull the bow back and send a single arrow through multiple conditions at the same time.
Really?
That was my approach, which is why I started the Angiogenesis Foundation. It's a not-for-profit organization. It's focused on the common denominator of blood vessels.
Wow.
We've got 400 miles worth of blood vessels in our brain. And that's a fraction of the 60,000 miles of blood vessels in our body. And it connects every organ, every cell. And so these are the highways and byways of health. And when they're messed up, compromised, diseased, that becomes the common denominator of disease. So that's really kind of like my unique angle to look at diseases, anything from cancer to blindness to wound healing. And now I'm looking at aging, in a slightly different way, which is I've had a whole career of building brick by brick, looking at what are the hallmarks of cancer, hallmarks of diabetes, hallmarks of aging now. All right. And that is actually how we advance the science. That's how we advance our understanding of ourselves. And the quest for longevity, immortality, okay? I like how you said the quest for immortality being an ages-old enterprise, okay? Pursuit is, I think, is part of our humanity. Like, we always want to know how we can actually go beyond our own limitations. I think that's probably ultimately what has led this interest. And of course, it's a huge interest now. I mean, if you look at the success of books like Outlive by Peter Tia and David Sinclair's books, people, they go gonzo over these like incredible books written by really amazing people. But I'll tell you, the first emperor of China, okay, set off to try to find that little elixir, the vial. Remember that Indiana Jones movie where they're looking for some like vial of immortality? Hey, this has been going on for a long time. And the first emperor of China didn't find it. He wound up dying. And before he died, he built like the 10,000 terracotta warriors to look over his tomb. That was his ultimate solution to immortality. That was before science, before Google's Calico to try to conquer blindness, before all the amazing work that's going on right now to build up those brick by brick, and putting in the grout in between to be able to build up that wall of understanding. So we are still looking. We're beginning to have a better understanding. But my approach to it is to say, like, all right, so what are the common denominators of people who live a really long time? What are we finding? And, my friend, and I think yours is Dan Buettner, from the Blue Zones.
Mm-hmm.
The guy is amazing because he found like, it's place, it's where you live and where you do what you do in terms of where you live that actually can contribute. So I'm a researcher, so I ask that same question from a slightly different perspective.
Right. Yeah, he has a number of different like things, which is community and your activity level and the foods you eat and having a purpose and kind of these.
He's into beans.
Big into beans, right? Yeah. And but that may not necessarily, like, I guess, be the only solution, right?
No.
If you follow these kind of core tenets that he has from the blue zones, and we're also seeing that some of those blue zones are no longer blue zones, I think, or they're diminishing in their blue zones because of the way people are changing their food intake or things like that, I think, right? Like the place in Japan.
And there may be more blue zones that haven't been discovered yet.
Interesting. And so what are the new things that you're observing that most people aren't noticing about people that live well into their hundreds?
All right. So let me take you on a little bit of a journey into our gut. Now, everybody knows that gut health is important for overall health. And even the people who are the experts, and I've gotten into this space now, we don't know entirely. We don't have the whole answer. All right. And you're talking to a real scientist because real scientists tell you we don't know everything.
Right.
All right. So, but what good scientists do is they observe. We take a look at what's going on and we see what is common, what we've come up with ideas. And so what's really interesting is to think about gut health, not just in terms of somebody in the middle of their life, like a 30 or 40 or 50-year-old person who, has inflammation and how do I actually get over my autoimmunity? That's important too. But I got interested in it because we're beginning to understand that people who have dementia actually have problems with their gut health. And what is the connection between your gut and your brain? Well, that's a gut-brain axis. But what if the problem with Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, vascular dementia, what if the common denominator actually isn't the little sticky plaque or the little single molecule that people have been diving on and billions of dollars have been spent? What if there is another factor that has been hidden in plain sight, which is our gut bacteria?
Wow.
Okay?
On how the gut impacts the brain.
The brain, yeah. And until recently, we didn't have the tools. We didn't have that, the tools in a toolbox to be able to look at it. But today, and this is pretty new, we can actually take a sample of poop, okay, send it off to a testing machine, and I'm oversimplifying, obviously.
And get the lab details on the
lab
bacteria,
details,
right?
And, we are able to do the crime scene investigation of our poop to figure out what bacteria are in there. And we get a pretty good approximation, and we can find out what are the standouts, okay? So, look, there's 39 trillion bacteria. You can't count every single one.
39 trillion?
Yeah, in your gut microbiome.
Wow.
So we can't get every single one. But if there are standouts, oh man, you've got like 4 or 5 really bad guys that are like popping out in high levels. We know you got a problem. Or if you're missing a handful of really good guys, all right, we're beginning to say, maybe these good guys are playing a bigger role. And this is the story that's emerging on dementia, that your gut bacteria, and by the way, it's not just in your poop. Your gut starts in your mouth, and we're beginning to realize that gum disease and bacteria that are either growing or not growing in your mouth might actually be one of the trigger points for dementia.
Gum disease.
Gum disease.
Wow.
Gingivitis. All right.
Okay, so it sounds like it starts with the mouth and then it's the gut, because what you put in the mouth is going to be in the gut as well.
That for food, yes, but all throughout, from your mouth all the way to your tailpipe, you've got bacteria growing.
Yes.
By the way, so the 2 biggest concentration of bacteria when you talk about gut bacteria, one is in your mouth. Our mouth is packed with bacteria, good bacteria. When bad bacteria overgrow, you get bad breath, you get cavities, you get gum disease, you get all the things that, you know, like, you know pretty quickly, right? Or your bed partner actually knows.
Sure.
Okay. When you're, so there's a big concentration in your mouth, and we're still beginning to figure out what those are. Your lower gut, which we classically think as gut bacteria, your gut microbiome, you know where it is in the gut? Do you know like what part of the gut, anatomy-wise, like what section of the gut?
The lower gut?
Yeah, lower gut.
I have no idea.
So, you know, if you imagine your gut from mouth to end, anus, 40 feet long. Okay.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. The last 25% is your colon, right? You've heard of colon cancer and everything else, or colonoscopy. So that's the last part. It's like, it's basically where like everything gets, all the stuff gathers before you get rid of it. But that's actually where the gut bacteria is, and it's in a particular part, a little sac in your colon called the cecum, spelled C-E-C-U-M. And you know where what's near in the cecum? It's the appendix. Now, a lot of people have had their appendix out. Okay, we used to think it's an unnecessary organ. Maybe, just maybe, that appendix plays a role that we didn't suspect.
What's that role?
We don't know, but we suspect it might play some air traffic control role for your gut microbiome.
Wow.
All right. So what I get excited about is new discoveries about our body that we didn't know. By the way, we're talking about gut brain. Do you know that recently we've discovered that your brain has its own microbiome? We got bacteria that grow naturally, healthily in our brain.
Wow.
And it's 20% of the same bacteria that's in our gut that's actually found in our brain.
So they're connected.
We believe so.
Because we used to, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but we used to treat like Alzheimer's and dementia as focusing on the brain, correct? Like, let's look at the brain and see what's wrong or what's off and try to treat the brain.
Yeah.
Versus now you're saying, well, it's the gut, it's the whole body that's connected to the brain, so we have to look at everything.
And we're beginning to sort of ask new questions about what might be some of the contributing factors, not just the tiny little plaques in Alzheimer's disease, because by the way, we've actually made a little bit of progress in that area, but after billions and billions of dollars, like we haven't made enough.
Really?
Right? I mean, if you think about it, like if you wanted return on investment, you would not actually call Alzheimer's research to be good, because for the bang for the buck that we put in there, we're actually getting very little bang.
And we still don't know how to reverse Alzheimer's or prevent it, I guess, or
not really. But I'll tell you that what I'm excited by is this idea that maybe there could, this is the theory, could there be some bad bacteria or the absence of some good bacteria in your mouth even, okay, or the lower gut, that actually is a trigger for Alzheimer's or Parkinson's.
Wow.
You know, by the way, there is a bacteria, a probiotic that's been researched to show that it can actually really slow down the symptoms of Parkinson's disease. It's called Lactobacillus plantarum, and it's a probiotic called PS128. And, you know, it's surprising that a probiotic could have such a profound effect on the brain.
What is that called again?
PS, like Paul and Sam, 128, and the actual bacteria is called Lactobacillus plantarum. Okay, so I'm just sharing with you discoveries, okay, about the brain. And so what I got interested in terms of longevity, and I'm not a neuroscientist and I'm not a dementia specialist, but I am somebody that is sort of really good at framing out if there is a connection between gut and brain, maybe we should be looking at the connection between gut and longevity.
Interesting.
And that's where some of the really exciting new stuff is coming out as well.
And so what is the main things that you've been able to observe then about the gut and how it relates to people that live over 100?
So first of all, people who live to 100 are called centenarians, right? Cent like 100. And we think that if you could live to 100, like that's 100 candles on your birthday cake, like
it's a big deal.
That's a big deal, right? That's the big birthday.
That is.
All right. Now, I have to tell you, my great uncle lived to 104.
Wow.
Okay. I was at his 100
Come on.
birthday party, and I saw 100 candles on his cake.
That's impressive.
Yeah. So I know it can happen in my own family.
Did he have the energy to blow all the candles out?
Not only did he have the energy to blow the candles out, he planned the party himself.
Wow.
Okay. He invited the guest list. He actually, I mean, he made the guest list. He planned the meal. You know, he hosted the thing. So it's
cool.
possible.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, most people think that, you know, living to 100 would be like a crapshoot, a long shot. Like, oh, if I could, in a healthy way, live to 100 would be great. But, you know, because I've been doing some research on this, it turns out today, you know how many people are 100 years old now?
I think you said it was close to 1 million or over 1 million.
Today, there are 722,000 people who are centenarians living in the world. You know, almost 750,000 of people that are 100.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people, a lot more than most people suspect. And what that means is that it is possible to actually get there, which means that we can begin to study these people. And that's where like I think some of the most exciting and provocative stuff actually is, right? So,
and people are studying their gut bacteria.
Yeah, and
really?
now we can actually study the poop.
Wow.
And the microbiome of people who are 100 and older. So centenarians are people who live to 100. But it turns out that there's something called a super centenarian or a super-ager, and these are people that live to 114, 115 years old, all right? And like they're really interesting. So a research study was done out of Italy looking at people across the lifespan from young adulthood, you know, like 20 to 40, 40 to 70, 70 to 90, 90 to 100, and then like the super-agers, okay, like 100 to 115 or 114. And in today's technology, all right, like, believe me, I think that wearables are great. I think that, you know, biohacking devices are quite amazing, but I think it's even more amazing that we can actually study the gut microbiome of like these super-agers.
Sure.
So the question is there something in the gut microbiome in super-agers, 100 and above, that pop out as important? It's not present in people who don't live that long, okay? It turns out there are 4 bacteria that are standouts in people that live to 100 and beyond.
Does that mean there are 4 bacteria in people that live 100 beyond in their gut bacteria that people under 100 don't have?
They have more of it. Gotcha. They have more of it. Like for them, it really stands out as super big spike.
Okay.
These 4 bacteria, you want to hear about them?
Yes.
All right. They've got names that, one of the names you might have heard of, I think we talked about it my last time I was on a podcast, but there is 4 bacteria. One of them is called Odoribacter. Okay.
Odoribacter?
Odoribacter. Okay. One of them is called Oscillobacter. One of them is called Christensenella. And then the 4th one is our old friend Akkermansia.
Okay.
And we've talked about Akkermansia before,
okay.
which you know, it's sort of been making the rounds as a important gut bacteria. I think the last time I was here, I was telling you that there have been discoveries that if you have cancer and you're on immunotherapy, which jacks up your own immune system to attack the cancer, it's not chemo. It's one of the most natural ways of approaching cancer. It's resulting in complete responses, meaning stage 4 to stage 0. Okay.
Wow.
Turns out Akkermansia, having this gut bacteria, may wind up being one of the critical pieces that you have to connect the dots for that to happen. Okay, to really get a great response.
To help you reverse cancer.
Yeah, to help your own immune system reverse cancer.
Wow.
Okay.
Interesting.
Gut bacteria talks to your immune system. 70% of your immune system lives in your gut. All right. And so you've got the right bacteria. They know how to speak the right language to your immune system to tell it to do what it's supposed to do.
70% of your immune system lives in the gut.
Yeah, exactly.
Where's the other 30%?
Scattered in different tissues in your body.
Really? Wow.
But by the way, you know where the immune system lives in the gut? It's actually in the wall of the gut. Think of your gut as a garden hose. Cut that garden hose open and look in the cross section. There's a little empty stuff in the middle. That's where the bacteria live.
That's where your immune system is.
Your immune system lives in the wall of the garden hose, inside the wall.
And the bacteria
live inside the cavity of the garden hose.
Wow.
And they talk to each other like college students shouting at each other through a cheap wall in a dorm room.
So the immune system is kind of like the insulation in a house. Is that right? In the walling of the house?
The immune system lives in the
walls.
in between the drywall of the house.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the insulation
inside the
drywall.
Yeah.
And whatever's in the house is the bacteria.
Exactly.
The people, the dogs, the cats, all
all moving around.
Plants, whatever, yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So what do we eat that affects our gut microbiome, the healthy bacteria, directly affects our immune system,
and impacts our brain.
And then it impacts our brain.
How much of what we eat impacts our brain?
More than we think. More than we think.
Like either giving us clarity and focus versus cloudiness, giving us...
that's what I'm working on right now. And I do know that there are people that are working on this. So, you laid it out the right way, Lewis. You eat something, it goes into your mouth, it tumbles down through.
Yeah.
Whatever our human body, our human cells don't absorb, goes on to feed our gut bacteria. Okay, or poison our gut bacteria in the case may be. So, you put something good in your system, it's going to do something good. Put something bad in your system, it's going to mess up the bacteria. All right. And then our bacteria then begins to talk to our immune system, our brain. It helps to work on our healing mechanisms as well. I study angiogenesis, how our blood vessels grow, that circulation. I've done research. There's one bacteria called Lactobacillus reuteri. Okay. And we found that if you have a wound in the lab and you feed these animals with a wound, this probiotic in their drinking water, you'll actually double the rate of wound healing from the inside out.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like Wolverine. So you become Wolverine.
Without the claws.
So wait, there's a probiotic that you can drink as a human now also?
Well, it's a tablet or you can chew it. Yeah.
Chew or swallow.
Lactobacillus reuteri. So Lactobacillus reuteri, by the way, is an amazing bacteria because it's normally in the gut. It's a healthy gut bacteria. So, we pulled it out and made it in something, but it's normally in the gut. Used to be present in everybody. After the 1930s and 40s, with the advent of antibiotics coming out, it became, maybe it's there, maybe it's not surprisingly. Okay. And so a lot of people don't have it. But this bacteria lowers inflammation, improves your immune system. And by the way, we do know for a fact, this is one bacteria that text messages your brain to release a social hormone called oxytocin. Oxytocin is the social hormone that your brain releases when you are super happy to see somebody. Go to the airport to meet a friend or a relative you haven't seen for a long time. You give them a big hug. You feel great.
Yes.
Oxytocin.
Wow.
Oxytocin is what your brain releases when you have a kiss. I'm not talking about peck on the cheek. I'm talking about
kiss.
Deep, passionate, like French kiss.
Yes.
Oxytocin. Oxytocin is also what your brain releases when you have an orgasm. Okay, so this is a very important brain hormone. This bacteria makes your brain release it. Okay, now.
And this isn't a drug. This is just like
this is I'm just telling you I'm telling you, this is a normal I'm telling you about the physiology, how does it normally works. Okay, by the way, moms would give her babies, this bacteria because, and this is like a crazy story, that normal gut bacteria at around 7 or 8 months of pregnancy there'd be a signal sent to the gut. Hey, you know, the cake's almost done. All right. Bun's almost ready to come out of the oven.
Right.
All right. And then these bacteria would hitch a ride on a blood cell. It's like calling an Uber. And
Sent it to the baby.
And then take the bacteria, your normal blood cells would take the bacteria, drop it off at the nipple, right? Uber. Okay. Destination. And then when the baby takes their first suckle,
they get rush.
They get the rush of the bacteria. That's another way that moms actually give babies they get the injection of bacteria, including Lactobacillus reuteri, right? Okay. Now, this bacteria.
So it's important to do breastfeeding then.
Oh yeah, that's part of the reasons. You also get immune cells and a lot of other good stuff from breastfeeding.
Side note: how long should a mother breastfeed a newborn?
You know, I think it's very individualized based on the mom and the baby. But like I would say that the categorical yes, unless there's a medical reason not to do it, is you should definitely breastfeed. That's like the non-controversial thing.
100%.
100%.
Breastfeed. Don't go right to a bottle or formula or something like that.
Because mom, I can tell you that the companies that make formula, they can't mimic Mother Nature.
They cannot.
They can try, but they can't do it. Not anywhere close.
Right. So unless there's some reason the mother is unable to do it.
Yeah. I mean, there are legitimate medical reasons where, you know, it's impossible. There's complications, all that kind of stuff. And I totally get it. Like then you got to make accommodations for it. But still, you know, it is always better for the baby, for the mom to actually breastfeed. By the way, so I'm, you know, diving into all this stuff. You find all this like fascinating stuff out about the gut microbiome, and from the beginning of life, like babies, all the way to the far reaches of life, like these super-agers. If these 4 bacteria, by the way, you know, the Odorobacter, the Oscillobacter, the Cristinella, the Akkermansia, they all play functions in the body, and we're figuring them out. They improve your metabolism. They lower inflammation. They help your immunity. They lower your cholesterol. Okay. They help your brain health.
Wow.
So all the things that we know are important, these bacteria seem to be doing the job in the super-agers. And there are foods that we can eat to grow these bacteria, to cultivate these bacteria. Oh, yeah.
What are the key foods that we can eat to cultivate the best bacteria to help us live longer?
So, you know, among all these 4, let me kind of just throw a few out there for you. It turns out pomegranate is really good. It's got bioactives like elagitannins that actually help your gut nurture the Akkermansia. Okay. It turns out that chili peppers can do the same thing. Black raspberry turns out can do the same thing. Oh, by the way, for Akkermansia, here's like a new discovery as well. So I'm all about, like, my science background is all about discovery and like pushing the frontiers of things. You know, Akkermansia, it's a bacteria. A bacteria has a shell around it, like a beetle has a hard shell around it. Recently, they've discovered that around Akkermansia, the shell of Akkermansia, there's a piece of the Akkermansia that they named, they gave it a name. It's called P as in Peter, P9. All right. They've now discovered that P9 bacteria, the P9 fragment of Akkermansia, actually causes your body to secrete its own GLP-1.
Which is the fat burning.
Which is the same thing that we use for prescription weight loss drugs. Your bacteria has been doing this. Your healthy bacteria has been doing this behind the scenes this whole time.
Interesting.
Right? So this is what I'm saying is, like, you know, we learn a lot from pharmaceuticals, but we might actually learn a lot more from what the gut bacteria are doing. Mother Nature's kind of like...
So fascinating. It seems like how much disease stems from the gut? More than we think.
Yeah. You know, probably a good number of our neurodegenerative diseases like dementia. I think that a lot of the diseases of aging, for sure, the chronic diseases. We do know that
diabetes is from...
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Cancers are from the
probably
gut.
Cancer, probably cardiovascular disease. You know, like the big ones. You know, all the big ones are diabetes, cancer, cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative diseases, probably even lung diseases.
Because the what, the society is talking a lot in the last few years about mental health. Like, it seems like there's a lot more anxiety, depression, ADHD, and these types of mental health conditions or diseases that are accelerating in mass numbers.
Yeah.
But based on what I'm hearing you talk about, it almost sounds like if we stop thinking about mental health, not stop thinking about it, but focus more on gut health, it sounds like it connects to the brain and the mind, and it'll create more alignment in ease versus dis-ease.
It's a new frontier. It opens up the avenue for more solutions. And by the way, because the gut also connects to other parts of our body as well, again, remember I told you, like, I'm all about the common denominator. Pull that bow back and send a single arrow through as many things, many problems as you can. Imagine if we could actually tackle mental health, mental wellness, and physical wellness all at the same time. And, gut bacteria clearly plays a role. It's not, it's not the only thing, but, it is the undiscovered country.
Because there's who is the doctor, Dr. Emmerin Mayer, I think it is. I don't know if he's got a book called Gut-Brain Connection, I think, something like that, that's talking about these things as well. And it seems like a lot of the things that are stemming from the brain disease or challenges is in the gut.
Yeah.
And it's also linked to longevity, it sounds like, as well.
Exactly. Well, this is what we're beginning to really, I would say, unravel and go into the layers of the onion to say, all right, if gut health is important for you in your, normal active adult life, which we now know it is, what role could it play towards actually fostering, supporting, maybe even triggering those signals for longevity? I mean, maybe, listen, so I always talk about our body like this. We're all different. We've got different genetics. We've got different, of course, most people say they've got different metabolisms. But it turns out that when we are born, it's like taking a laptop out of the box. Our operating system is all set. When you and I are born, my operating system and your operating system, pretty much the same. Our OS was exactly the same.
Exactly.
All right. And so why is it that maybe your metabolism and my metabolism are closer than more different, but, because we take care of ourselves. But why is it that people develop such divergent, so different metabolisms, for example, or maybe longevity patterns? And it turns out, just like your laptop, if you take care of your laptop, you turn it off at night, you clear the
software.
cache, you update the software, you make sure that you pad it when you're traveling,
clean it,
all that kind of stuff. And let's say I'm not so careful. I drop it, gets really hot in the car, I spill coffee on it or whatever, what do you think is going to happen to our operating system? Or I download all kinds of stuff.
It's going to break.
Well, what's going to happen is that your computer operating system and mine are going to diverge. You're going to go this way, I'm going to go that way. And actually, probably definitely for our metabolism, but probably for our longevity as well, that's actually what happens, is that we start to diverge our patterns. We're all born the same way. And the reason I'm bringing this up, because I think for anybody who's listening to this or watching this, people tend to think I'm the fate of my genetics. There's nothing I can do about it. So screw it. I'm just going to do whatever I want to do.
Eat whatever, drink whatever. Yeah.
What I want to really emphasize is that we are all hardwired to actually heal. We can get back to that healing. We can heal to get back to our original state, which is designed, like the laptop, to function its entire life of the device with an intact operating system. What do you do with your computer? Hopefully you don't have to reinstall the operating system. Take good care of it. But if you don't take good care of it, clean the cache, do a virus scan, clean it up.
Yeah.
Take good care of it. And that's kind of how I think people should think about longevity, is that it's not like just set a number. Okay. This is not like booking a seat in the movie theater online. I'm going to get that number and that's what I want. Okay. Good luck. I think that, it's a journey. We need to focus on today and keep focusing on as far as we can actually see and keep doing that. It's like longevity. There's a quote from E.L. Doctorow, who was a novelist, who once said, writing is like driving at night. You can't see beyond your headlights, but you can make the whole trip that way. And that's kind of how I think about longevity, living as long as you can go, That, I mean, you know, but you want to actually make sure that you're enjoying yourself and you're fully aware of what you're doing along the same way.
Yeah, 100%. And seeing what's in front of you, not just only focusing on how do I make it to 100 or 110, just enjoying the moment.
The horizon is important, but honestly, like, so is what's directly in front of you.
Sure. If someone watching or listening has maybe neglected their health for many years and they're now living in excess weight or maybe even obesity, and they've been on a pattern and a routine of eating poorly, drinking a lot of excess alcohol, whatever it might be, and just not taking care of their health, and you were to prescribe just a 90-day game plan to reset their metabolism and try to get the right things going again, what would you prescribe that individual? And how much do you think they could actually recover and start to heal from years of not taking care of their health?
First of all, I think that we're able to recover a lot of our health and heal ourselves by making small moves. And this is really important.
Not extreme moves.
Big moves are, some people can do them. Most people can't maintain big moves. All right. Small moves, almost anybody can actually do. And of course, you know, people are very complicated. And, you know, that the scenario you described is somebody who's like, you know, been super unhealthy their whole lives and, you know, not done the right things and are overweight and they're alcohol. I mean, I think you were stacking, you know, I mean,
maybe it's not that extreme, but maybe it's, you know, like 20 to 40 pounds overweight.
How about this? Like the typical person who hasn't taken care of themselves for most of their life.
Maybe not too extreme.
What can they actually do? You know, and maybe it's not 90 days. I would say, you know, like, hey, you know, I think you should take a look at things that you can actually do in a month or two. Give yourself a little runway. All right. Take it easy on yourself because, you know, stress and, you know, putting too much pressure on yourself doesn't actually help. But some of the principles I will tell you that is supported by evidence, scientific evidence and clinical evidence is, number one, I would say switch to eating more of a plant-based diet with whole foods. All right. So I just said a mouthful there because what I'm saying is that eat more foods that you are buying whole and fresh and cook them yourself.
Not processed.
Not processed, okay? So you can cut down on your ultra-processed foods and focus more on your whole fresh foods. Immediately, you're going to be flooding your body with more of Mother Nature's pharmacy. That's pharmacy with a F, not a PH.
Yes.
All right? And that's going to start healing and prompting your gut to start doing it as well. But you're going to start getting a lot of stuff that it's not prescription.
Before you go to the next point, can you make a distinction, if you can explain to people, because I don't think people truly understand, when you eat one processed meal, what is happening with a processed food, whether it's ultra processed or just processed and not its complete whole food that you cook? What happens when it enters the mouth of ultra processed food or something that's processed and goes through the gut and out? What is happening to your body with that versus just single ingredient whole foods cooked and in the system?
First of all, I think that this idea, the word, I mean, we're now beginning to have this conversation about ultra processed foods as a society, right? And it's damn well time that we actually did. All right, because we do know that ultra processed foods aren't good for you. But the word processed and ultra processed often gets confused. So let's start there. Okay, so raw foods are, I mean, whole food ingredients are like going to the grocery store and just eating the food without doing anything to it.
Banana, apple,
exactly,
spinach,
oh right,
carrot,
right, like
single
the salad
ingredient.
bar.
Yeah, single ingredient.
Let's say the salad bar is a great example of really just like whole individual ingredients that you put into a bowl and just eat them one by one. Most foods that we cook, by cooking them, we're processing.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever seen, so anything that we do to manipulate food is processing. So if you ever made pasta by yourself, you take a big pile of flour and you crack some eggs in it and you just take your fingertips and work it and you then roll it up and roll it out and cut it up and okay, so that's processing.
Yeah, of course.
So that's different
Than all your processing.
Going to ultra processing, which is having a factory extrude the ingredients, shape them into animal crackers or whatever, and then adding flavors,
colorings
adding
again.
coloring, adding stabilizers, adding emulsifiers, and then throwing in all these like chemical ingredients that you can't pronounce, or you have no idea what they do in there. That's ultra processed.
Okay, so the difference between something minimally processed versus ultra processed, what happens to the gut, the bacteria in your gut, and the body and the immune system with having those different options?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what we know as it relates to longevity. So first of all, I try to break it down really simply. Our body is like your car. When you put our food is our fuel. When you go to the filling station, you get a choice. You can actually put in, like, you got 4 different kinds of fuel you could put in. All right. If you put in good quality fuel, your car is going to drive better. Over the long haul, it's going to drive better. Every now and then you put in some crummy cheap fuel, it's all right. You're not going to notice. But if you do that day in and day out, you're going to notice it for sure. All right. So you put something good into your body's going to respond really well. You put something bad in your body's also going to respond accordingly in a negative way. So simply, in simplest terms, that's actually what the difference is between ultra processed, which isn't really good for you, and your body's going to revolt. It's going to trash your body from the inside out in ways, some ways we know, and other ways we don't even know yet. By the way, the whole conversation about ultraplastics, microplastics, all right? Hey, you know what? If you ever see like the amount of machinery and plastic that has to, you know, the machines that the processed food has to go through, who knows how much microplastics are actually found in ultra processed foods.
It's like leaching through,
That remains to be seen, you know. And so what I say is that the least amount of processing you can have for your food, the more you can be assured that it's going to be a quality food that you're actually going to put in your body, and your body will react well. So what's going on when you feed your food minimally processed whole foods? Your body is going to extract immediately as many of the polyphenols as it can out of it. Goes in your stomach, it's absorbed into your bloodstream. Those polyphenols go to town. The effect of a polyphenol, of eating polyphenols, and there's a lot of polyphenols in foods. Strawberries, blueberries, an orange, an apple, broccoli. All right, when all those polyphenols basically get into your bloodstream, and think about it like starting a symphony of effects. You know, if you ever go to like listen to a symphony orchestra, it's not just usually one instrument that goes off. The whole orchestra goes off, and that's what happens when we eat foods with polyphenols. The dietary fiber tumbles down. We might absorb some of it we don't absorb, tumbles down all the way to your lower gut. What does it do? It feeds our gut microbiome. We've got 39 trillion hungry little baby birds in a nest waiting to be fed. Okay, and the dietary fiber we eat actually feeds them. How important is this? And we know it's really important, not only because dietary fiber seems to be, eating dietary fiber lowers the risk of diseases like dementia, diabetes, cancer, improves outcomes for cancer. But for cancer, for example, there was a study from the MD Anderson Cancer Center that looked at people with melanoma, okay, a deadly form of skin cancer, getting immunotherapy. So they're getting the state-of-the-art treatment, requires their own immune system to go to town. That's the 70% in your gut, requires the gut bacteria. Gut bacteria need to eat, okay, got to feed them. Turns out for every 5 to 6 grams of dietary fiber, it decreased mortality by 30%. Mortality, death, okay, death.
Decreased it.
Decrease it by 5 to 6 grams of dietary fiber per day. Now, what does that look like? Dietary fiber, 5 to 6 grams? You get a medium-sized pear has 5 to 6 grams of dietary fiber. Not a big ask, okay?
And you do one of those a day.
One of those a day, or the equivalent to get the dietary fiber.
Of course.
All right. So, and again, now you get all the polyphenols, and so like powerful effects. How quickly does dietary fiber and these polyphenols, how quickly can they change your the fate of your gut bacteria? Within 24 hours.
Come on.
You can start getting changes. So, and I wrote about this in my book, Eat to Beat Disease. You have kiwis, okay, and you measure the gut microbiome, and you can, within 24 hours after eating 1 kiwi, you can start to grow more healthy gut bacteria in the first day. All right. By 4 days, you start growing other bacteria that are healthy as well. So, you know, like you're asking me, what about the dude who actually hasn't been taking care of himself? Look, this is what I'm telling you. Go eat some whole fresh foods that you prepare yourself. Okay. Cut down some of that ultra processed stuff. I'll talk about what the ultra processed stuff does in a second. And you'll start to get these changes. You're hardwired to do this. Your body wants to do it. You know, let it do its job.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you'll start to feel the effects, or at least your body will feel the effects within 24 hours.
Well, the changes start fast. And so, you know, definitely within a few days, you will start to feel much better. I mean, listen, you ever go like on a crummy food bender, and then, right? Like
don't feel good.
Don't feel good. And then you say, you know what, this sucks. I'm going to actually like eat healthy now. You start getting it back pretty quick.
Yes.
You're like, I am so glad I'm doing this, right? So the changes happen fast. So I think, you know, so number one, it is within everyone's power to be able to actually make these moves, okay, that count, simply by shifting to whole, good, healthy foods. Because, you know, the bad stuff with the artificial preservatives and artificial coloring and all that, you know, the simplest way to think about what they might do besides dump chemicals into your body is they can kill your gut bacteria. That's not what you want to do. You know, killing the gut bacteria, by the way, is like, we're talking about the symphony, Beethoven's Fifth, you know, or Handel's Messiah, big choir, in a big concert hall, you know, like hurting your gut bacteria, like ultra processed foods with all these artificial things. It's like sending in, it's like sending in hooligans from a British football game, screaming into a concert hall and kicking over all the instruments.
Wow, that's what processed foods do, ultra processed.
Yeah.
What are other things that ruin the gut bacteria then, besides ultra processed foods?
Well, alcohol will do it. Smoking also can affect it. Not getting enough good sleep, not getting exercise can also affect your gut.
What about vaping?
Vaping, oh yeah, vaping is also, I mean, look, cigarettes, vaping, cigars, pipes, it's all part of the same continuum. There's nothing better about vaping. In fact, research has actually shown that the flavoring that they put in vapes are actually probably even worse than some of the stuff that you have just in a plain cigarette. So, you know,
so vaping or smoking or cigars, that doesn't help the gut bacteria.
No, not at all.
Does it impact it in a negative way? Or
it impacts it in a negative way.
Really?
Yeah, because guess what? All those chemicals, instead of eating them, now you're inhaling them, and they go right into your bloodstream. Instead of from your gut, your stomach, it just goes right into the bloodstream for your lungs. And now, you know, everything is affected. That 60,000-mile channel of highways and byways is delivering whatever the menthol flavor or the whatever flavor you got all over the place. You really don't want that.
How much of a block, if someone is smoking every day or vaping or doing cigars or pipes every day, or they're inhaling some type of smoke, how much of a dam are they creating in the flow of health throughout their nervous system, their bloodstream,
I don't have a number for you, but it's pretty significant. In fact, it's so significant that, you know, some of the researchers looking at environmental toxins have been even looking at not only smoking and vaping, all right, but looking at even like cooking. Think about the line cooks at a restaurant.
The smoke, you mean?
And all the fryer smoke.
Oh, yeah, the grease and everything coming up.
Listen, like you and I,
smells good.
We probably have spent more time, we've probably done our time standing in the front of a grill on the summer, right?
Of course.
And we're flipping the burgers or grilling the steaks. Hey, you know, like that's part of the, that's part of the you know, that's part of growing up, you know, and doing our thing. All right. Think about all that stuff that we're breathing. We know that grilling meat puts carcinogens into the meat. What do you think we're breathing in? Oh man. Okay. Fortunately, you know, like most people aren't grilling every day. But if you're a line cook in a restaurant, you're going there doing that
8 hours a day
at the station, 8 hours a day, every day. Okay. So what I'm saying is that, like, what we expose our bodies to makes a big difference. So these are choices that we make. And, you know, researchers and public health and policymakers, like, I think that there's starting to be a convergence in recognizing that, if we want a healthier society and healthier individuals, all right, we got to just be a little bit more alert to the fact that what we're exposed to can have like a really, really big impact in ways that we didn't think about before. Now's the time to think about it.
Okay, so number one, I think I took you off track for a second. Number one is eat more plant-based whole foods.
Yep. And less ultra-processed food.
Less ultra-processed.
Okay.
Was there more to this? Was there more steps to this?
No, I think that's probably a good first step. I mean, of course, there's a lot of little minis. Second thing I would tell you is don't overeat.
Don't overeat.
Now, look, we live in a culture of abundance.
Oh, yeah.
The more there is, the more you want to eat.
Yeah.
Right?
Easy access, too.
Easy access, okay? And easy access is the cheap stuff, which is the ultra-processed stuff, which is definitely the bad stuff, right? So not the good stuff.
Forget overeat fiber, overeat like the healthy stuff.
Honestly, I would tell you, don't even overeat the good stuff. And here's the reason why.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Because the fact of the matter is that our bodies are designed to take in food as fuel, all right? Like, remember I gave you the analogy of the car at the filling station, getting your tank filled up, right? So that's basically how we interact with our food. We're just like in a car, you don't really think about your fuel until the meter runs low, the gauge runs low, then you're like, shoot, where can I find a gas station? That's all you can think about. And that's basically how our body works. Like, we don't think about eating until,
getting hungry.
The fuel tank goes, your tank's running low. Now, like, okay, I got to get something to eat. Okay, so that's the same way. And what happens is that when we go to the filling station with a car, we put hopefully high quality fuel into our gas tank, which is a metal container in the side of the car. We fill it up, right? And what happens when the gas tank in a car fills up to the top, it goes click, and now no more gas comes out. We get out, we put it away, okay, and then we drive off, right? And our tank's full. Our body doesn't have the clicker.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
If we had a clicker?
Yeah, if we had a clicker and it said, okay, you've eaten all you need to fill your tank today, stop eating. Don't burn it now. Go run.
I'm gonna tell you what we kind of do have a clicker, and I'm gonna tell you what it is. If you eat slowly,
yes,
you will actually feel satiated, full, and if you stop there, stop. Before you're full, you're satisfied before you're full. Now, this requires a little bit of finesse for you to know yourself, okay?
Well, also when I eat ultra-processed foods, I never feel full. It's like I can have 2 pizzas and candy, and
you want more and more.
Hungry.
Yeah.
And so the clicker doesn't turn on with ultra-processed foods like it would with whole foods, where you feel like, oh, I got a lot of good fiber in me. I got some good grains. I got some, meat or beans or vegetables. Like, I feel satisfied.
So that's the key thing. Feeling satisfied, knowing you're satisfied, and stopping. No matter what's else, like, I don't care if you haven't cleaned your plate, stop. Quit the clean plate club.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, you got to quit it, all right? And then in that case, you shouldn't have put so much food in your plate to begin with.
Exactly.
Right? So this is my overarching second piece of advice for somebody who wants to take better care of themselves. Don't put too much food in the plate. Don't feel like you have to clean the plate. Take your time eating so that when your stomach starts to get full, you'll start feeling that you're satisfied. You don't have to feel full. Like, we're trained to eat until we're full.
Yeah.
All right. But, like, listen, anybody who's been at a big Thanksgiving dinner will know this, right? So you've been hungry all day. You can't wait for that meal with all the amazing food and all the amazing family. Look forward to it every year. And you go there and it's time to eat, and you pile your plate up and you're eating. Okay. And you're like, oh my God, I got to go back and get more. Right. So you go back and get more. You take one forkful of that second plate and you cross that line.
And you got all this food left over.
Yeah. And then you feel like, oh man, I don't think I can eat anymore. And then you are on the couch feeling crummy for the rest of the day. That's crossing the line. You ate so fast, you didn't pay attention. Right. So second piece of advice for people, don't overeat.
Okay.
Third
thing?
Third thing is something that everybody can do. Like, by the way, Louis, I'm telling you all things that don't cost a lot of money.
Exactly.
In fact, they will save you money.
Yeah.
All right. That's the key thing. You don't have to be, like a super wealthy person and buy all this and order all these supplements and do all this crazy stuff and track your glucose and all that. You don't need to do all this stuff. This is a simple way to heal yourself and get started, because your body's got the operating system already hardwired into you.
Yes.
It's an easy first step for anybody. Now, third thing is every now and then skip a meal. I do it about 3 times a week, 2 to 3 times a week. Easiest meal for me to skip is breakfast. Okay. I get up, I take my time. If my work day starts early, if I got a ton of stuff I got to do, sometimes I'm so busy, I just don't even have time to eat breakfast. And that's totally okay. We were told by our moms, we got to eat breakfast in order to have, to learn something at school, have enough energy. Totally not true.
Yeah.
By not eating breakfast, what we are immediately doing is extending this fasting period from overnight, when we weren't eating after, when we went to sleep. Now you're still not eating until, let's call it lunchtime. You've extended your, quote, fasting period, maybe 12 hours. Okay. That's the easiest way to do intermittent fasting. You don't have to go into a schedule and do anything else. I always tell people, don't bother going into these crazy plans. Just skip a meal or two. And even if you don't do it every single day, which, it's probably hard for everybody to skip breakfast or skip lunch every single day. But if you do it 2 or 3 times a week, okay, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
These are the easy steps. This is the third thing I would do. Fourth thing I would do is say, get on your feet and go for a walk after dinner.
Yes.
Okay. And by the way, when I'm saying a walk, I'm saying like a brisk walk. Don't drag your feet. Walk until, you're feeling it, you're feeling like you're getting some good exercise. If you can do it with a friend or a family member, even better. Catch up on things. If you don't have anybody to walk with, hey, there's something called podcasts.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen to School of Greatness.
Yes.
Okay. Listen to an episode. Listen to this episode. All right. And by the time it's done, you'll have actually gotten some pretty good exercise and movement. If you can squeeze it in to do a workout plan or join a gym or go swimming or cycling, more power to you. But I'm saying you can do it
Walk.
the really, really easy way anybody can do it is just walk. Unless you're in a wheelchair, okay, this is something you can do to actually start to gain your health back. All right. That is the next thing. And then the final thing that I think is a start, because you can't stack too many things on, is try to get some good sleep.
Yes.
Just get some good sleep. And by the way, you know why? Because when you sleep really, really well, and look, even if you don't sleep well now, there's at some point in your life you did get good sleep. So we all know how to do it. All right. When you get good sleep, deep REM sleep, dreaming sleep, what happens is that your body regenerates itself. Your stem cells start to regenerate. Your brain cleans itself out. By the way, have you heard of the glymphatic system in the brain?
I've heard it, but what does it do?
Okay, so there is a hidden sewer system in our brain called the glymphatic system. You've heard of lymphatic system, but the glymphatic system, they say glymph because the cells in our brain are called glia, G-L-I-A. So glymphatic system is a sewer system that's normally closed during the day. And so, like here we are during the day, we're doing this podcast, we're doing other things, you prep before, you got to do some stuff afterwards. Me too. All right. You know what's happening? We're building up toxins in our brain, oxidative stress, all kinds of stuff is going on in our brain. When we sleep tonight, okay, hopefully I'm going to get some good sleep, and hopefully you too.
Yes.
All right. When we get good sleep, and only when we get good sleep, the glymphatic systems open up. It's like the sewers of Paris, drains the toxins from your brain. All right. And that's how we regenerate the freshness of our brain. That's why they say get a good night's sleep before an exam. All right. And if you don't, by the way, you get brain fog. You know why you get brain fog? Because you've kept those toxins in.
Wow. If someone, say, has 1 glass of wine or 1 drink of alcohol before they go to sleep, and they say to themselves, it's not that much, it's just 1 glass or 1 drink, how much is that impacting the brain to not be able to recover, flush out those toxins, and feel fully rested?
Different for everybody.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I think in general, what I would say is that I have an opinion about alcohol. Okay. And my opinion about alcohol is this. From the time that humans started to grow grains and, and ferment them, all right, we've been having alcohol, and alcohol is part of human ritual. We celebrate birthdays and funerals and wakes and holidays with it. So to me, I think that, drinking some wine having some alcohol is really part of our humanity. All right. The problem comes when we actually start really abusing it and drinking too much of it. And here's a reason. The alcohol in all alcoholic beverages, the ethanol, okay, which is present in all of them, that's a toxin. So whether you drink a little or a lot, the bottom line is still a toxin. So the more you have, the more toxicity more toxin your body's got to purge.
Yes.
Every now and then, it's probably not a big deal. Like have a great glass of wine or bottle of wine on your birthday. Don't drink the whole bottle, but
Sure.
enjoy it with some friends. Okay, like social drinking in that context, I think is okay.
But if you're doing it every night, just one glass.
What I would tell you is this: your body's got to work against that to clear it, and everybody's body's different. Your liver might work a little bit more efficiently than mine, so you're going to clear it a little bit better. And the faster you clear it, the better the sleep you're going to get. And by the way, alcohol itself is a brain toxin, so it knocks out a few neurons. You got to regenerate those, so you got to regenerate them when you're sleeping, right? So it's all interlinked. And so I don't like to character assassinate any food, really. I think, you gotta enjoy. If you want to live for a long time, aiming for longevity. Life is for the living, so you got to live your life. I'm a big believer in that. But you got to be aware of what it is you're putting into your body and how your body's responding to it.
So again, these 4 bacteria that are in the gut of people that are living well beyond 100, we talked about those before. You gave a few different foods that can support you, and I guess the fourth one.
Yeah, there's more for all these bacteria. Like let's not go through every single one.
Sure.
This is like still a relatively new area of research for me. But I'll tell you, I was surprised to discover that resistant starches can grow some of them as well. You know what a resistant starch is? Starch, right? It's a carb, right? Like rice and all this other kind of stuff. Banana, all right? When you actually change the starch so it becomes a little harder to digest, like you refrigerate like day-old rice, okay, becomes a resistant starch. A potato, you're going to roast some potatoes, all right? You stick them in the fridge. The next day, the natural chemistry of the potato, the starches changes. You got some resistant starch. Resistant starch can grow some of those bacteria that are found in ultra-agers, super-agers.
Interesting.
Okay. Also some natural foods, green bananas, resistant starch, plantains, resistant starch. All right. So any roasted potato, stick it in the fridge, have it the next day. You actually have created your own resistant starch. So those actually also can help grow some of the healthy gut bacteria as well.
Amazing. What are the things that are blocking us beyond the processed foods, beyond smoking, alcohol? Here's actually a question I have for you about this. If you're eating all the right foods, but you say, take a Tylenol once a day, or take a ibuprofen once a day, or take some type of chemical compound that is a drug, even if it seems like it's safe over the counter, what does that do to the gut microbiome when you take a Tylenol, Advil, ibuprofen, or some type of pain killer?
We don't know, and it's going to be different for different medicines. Like I will tell you that some medicines might actually be very harmful. Okay, and I think that we're just still at the beginning of discovering, like our consciousness has only been recently raised as researchers to think about the gut microbiome. There's a lot more work to be done, but
a few years in,
we're just a few years in. But I'll tell you, there are some surprises. And I know that on your program, you've actually had people coming in to talk about longevity drugs like rapamycin and metformin. You know that metformin's been discovered to improve your gut microbiome.
Really?
Yeah. So medicines aren't always bad. Some of them might actually be good. We're just starting to figure this out and understand it.
Yeah, interesting. I guess I'm curious if there's side effects that would also hurt. Maybe they'd help in some way, but then hurt in some other way. I'm not sure. But
we don't really know yet, and I think that's really part of this new frontier. I'm really excited about, because I think that when I went to medical school, and I was learning and studying and reading all these books, and, like we're digesting 4,000 years of medical knowledge. You graduate medical school with your stethoscope around your neck, figuring that, like, okay, I probably know most of what there is to know. Heck no. we are still discovering new cells in the body, new organs in the body, new pieces of our physiology and how our body works that we didn't even imagine. So that's what's exciting to me as a medical researcher, as a physician, as a scientist. And then, like part of what I do is, as I write books, I like to translate some of the most exciting, but also pragmatic, like practical things we're discovering that you can actually do something about.
This may sound a little woo-woo, this question, but how much do our thoughts and our mindset impact our gut, but also our overall health?
Oh, I think it's huge. As it relates to the gut, we do know that it's a two-way street. So if we're depressed or, like some other thing is going on in our brain, inevitably the gut's going to be affected in some way.
Really,
as I said, like we don't have it all figured out yet.
But it's impacting it.
Probably not for the better.
So stress, overwhelm, anxiety, depression, bad thoughts.
And it may be a
gut signaling the brain.
Signaling back to the brain, like two people playing pickleball.
Interesting.
Like batting, like nastiness back to each other. That could well be happening, okay, with brain and gut. We do know that it can be good. There's beneficial gut-brain interactions. So it makes sense that there might be some negative ones. But I can tell you that I think that that too often we disconnect mental wellness with physical wellness. We call them two separate things. No, the psychiatrist or the therapist deals with this, and medical doctors say, oh, well, I deal with the liver or I deal with the kidney. Yeah, what we're beginning to realize is there's all this interconnectivity. And again, back to what I do. I'm all about the common denominator of health and the common denominators of disease. And we can actually take a science-based approach to look at, how everything is connected. It's that idea of like draining the Pacific Ocean and seeing how the islands are connected. We get a lot more mileage out of that than just taking an inch wide and going a mile deep and thinking that you've got the answer.
Yeah. It almost sounds like if you're eating unhealthy foods, ultra-processed foods, it's more than likely going to have an impact on the way you think, because you're going to feel a certain thing, or maybe the signals are sending something up, oh, this is not enough. I need more nutrients, I need something else, and therefore it's going to create some type of fogginess in your thinking or in your mind. And if your thinking or mind is a lower energy, a lower frequency, thinking, I'm tired, it's going to send it back to the gut. It seems like it's kind of connecting the same time. So when you eat something healthy, hopefully it's impacting your mind or your brain to think better. And if you're thinking better, hopefully your gut is being impacted in a better way also.
And that's connected to longevity, because one of the goals that we all want to have is we want to be clear in mind. We want to have good cognition.
Yeah.
It's not just about memory.
Yeah.
It's really about decision making. What am I going to do today? What am I going to do next week? And making good decisions, right? I mean, like I just think that rather than pick a number, I'm going to do 150 or whatever, let's think about this whole journey and everything we need to do to enjoy where we're going. You're going to go on vacation, right? You want to really plan your vacation. Where are you going to eat? What are you going to pack? What's the weather going to be like? Like all these components, I think, are, at least from my perspective, longevity is not just about the big number. It's really about your health span and the quality of your life along the way. And that's, to me, is really the exciting thing, is really the science of that enjoyment along the way. I'm a big believer in joy and in pleasure.
Yes.
And in making life worth living.
100%. And if you could, I've got a couple final questions for you, but if you were to focus on a few supplements you think people should be taking, to just non-negotiables that you think is going to help their gut, their lifespan, their everything, what would those few supplements be?
I can only tell you what I do.
Okay.
All right. Because I don't think I can really fairly address, this should be for everybody, the non-negotiables. But I'll tell you, for me, I know that it's hard for me to get enough vitamin D. So I'll take a vitamin D supplement. I know even though I enjoy seafood, and I like, plant-based sources of omega-3s, it's hard for me to get enough. So an omega-3 supplement is good for my brain, good for my heart, it's good for my muscles. So I take an omega-3 supplement. I think those are, for me, non-negotiables.
Sure.
I just don't get enough. And I think most people don't get enough either, honestly. Because I do work in this area, I have an unfair advantage of seeing the results of research and thinking, oh, wow, why don't I do this if I'm seeing this? So
Right.
I do take some probiotics, and it's all based on the research that I've actually seen. So that bacteria I told you, Lactobacillus reuteri, you can find it in food. Sometimes it's in yogurt. It's in sourdough bread, but I don't want to eat too much sourdough bread. It's a carb. Lactobacillus is what makes the sourdough bread tangy, which people like, but you can't eat that much sourdough bread. Lactobacillus reuteri is also in the Italian version of Parmigiano Reggiano cheese.
So good.
Big,
Yeah.
orange wheels. Okay, it's a starter bacteria for it. You don't want to be eating too much of that. Shave a little bit on, okay, but you're not going to be eating like mouthfuls of it. So I can't get enough of that. And I've seen enough research from what I've done to know that it's good for my immune system. It lowers inflammation. I've seen really good data in animals from the lab that it reduces the development of colon tumors and breast tumors. It also improves your metabolism, your lipids. It text messages your brain for that oxytocin. So
what's that one called again?
Lactobacillus reuteri. And by the way, it's Lactobacillus reuteri is spelled Reuteri. I'll give it to you so you can put it in the show notes.
Yeah, please.
Lactobacillus reuteri. And I'll tell you, I actually order the kind. Like, this is stuff you can get on Amazon. I get the kind that you can chew.
Okay, I like
Children's chewable version. You know why? Because there's other data in humans that this healthy bacteria in the gut, remember I told you the gut starts in the mouth, actually kills the bacteria that causes cavities.
Really?
I brush my teeth. Then I'll chew up a couple of these
Come on.
babies.
I want some
I'll
of it.
swish them around and I swallow it. Good for the upstairs, good for the downstairs,
I'm in.
right? And remember I told you, we're beginning to see links between gum disease, gingivitis, bad bacteria in your mouth, and dementia. Okay, so, I didn't have to convince you very hard on that one.
No, I'm in.
All right.
I'm in. You take these every day?
I do. And then, I happen to be involved with the research on Akkermansia. And I know that people say it's been so talked about on, on social media and YouTube and podcasts. I do the research on it. Okay. So and my colleagues are doing the research on it. So I'm looking at it, and this bacteria actually is really, really important. And I'm a cancer researcher, so I know just how important that can be. So I do take that back. I do take that probiotic, but I also don't rely on probiotics. Like from my Akkermansia, I also drink some pomegranate juice, and I'll, have dried cranberries, and I try to make, I use supplements as a top off, which is what supplement means.
Yeah.
All right. But I try to get most of my
foods.
Things from foods. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is that one called? The Akkermansia?
Akkermansia, Akkermansia.
That's the probiotic name or no?
That's the name of the bacteria and the probiotic.
Oh, it is. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So,
So those four things are the main that you
yeah,
take. Vitamin D, omega-3, and these two probiotics.
yeah,
You might throw some other stuff in there, but those are the main.
those are the main ones I do.
Gotcha.
I mean, look,
Good
everyone's
insurance
going to be
policy.
different. Everyone's going to have different needs. I might add some, based on research that's coming on. So I try not to create a little, a box of things that to say you have to do this,
Of course.
or you're not going to be healthy. This is what I do, and people always ask me, so I'm happy to share it with you.
That's great. You've got some amazing books, Eat to Beat Disease and Eat to Beat Your Diet, that cover all the research that you've done and give people way more tips than what we've talked about here. This is a great starter. And you're on YouTube every week. People can check out YouTube/Dr. William Li to see your content where you dive into the research and you share more. And you're doing it, what, 2-3 times a week right now?
Yeah, 3 times a week, and then we actually add more content whenever I can. And the way that I trim my YouTube is that I look really closely at what people, my audience and people who hear about me, they want to ask me. So I get I could collect information, like what are the questions that people want to know? And then I create my YouTube content based on answering what people want to know.
What's the biggest pain that people are facing around their health today that you've been answering?
Confusion about what they should do. They get so much misinformation, it becomes confusing for them. And so what I always try to tell people to do is that I'm trying to give you information that's based on science that I know to be true as well as we understand it now. You can count on me to be a trusted source of information. I'm a scientist, so if I don't know it, I'm going to tell you I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because we can't know everything, and I think that, and just like what we talked about today, I'm a practical person. Do what's practical. You don't have to do what's expensive. You can't, health is not elitism. Health is universal. It's something we can all do because we're all hardwired to actually heal. We're all hardwired to have good metabolism. We're hardwired to have our health defenses. So if you have been off the path, don't worry. You can get back on it, Just, follow your own signals with a little bit of guidance and you can get there.
This is powerful. I want people to go subscribe to your YouTube, check you out, all your books, drwilliamlee.com. You're going to be updating people there. You have a newsletter, all these different things people can check out. Also, I'm going to get a link or a list of all the supplements you talked about and add it to the show notes. So I'll get that from you later and I'll add it to the show notes on YouTube and all the different audio platforms. But this has been very powerful. I appreciate you for revealing some of the new research that you're discovering and you're seeing that I haven't heard anyone talk about, which is kind of understanding the gut bacteria connection to longer-term health and longevity. And I think it's really important that we need to start exploring more of this. And I'm assuming over the coming years, you're going to be talking more about this on your YouTube channel, about what you're discovering and sharing the research and the science that people can have for themselves.
Yeah, it's so exciting what we're actually finding out in terms of how to live long and live well. To me, that's the alignment. You want years and quality at the same time. That's what I'm focused on, like a laser beam.
Dr. William Lee, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting me again.
Powerful. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you got some value from this episode as much as I did. If you did, please do me a favor and click the like button right now. If you like this, it's going to help share it out into the YouTube world even more for us. Please click that like button and leave a comment below on your biggest takeaway, or if you have any questions that you want me to follow up with. Also, subscribe to our channel because when you do, you help us book even bigger guests. And I want you to have the best information out there in the world because that's what the School of Greatness is all about. So make sure to subscribe right now, like this video, share a comment below on your biggest takeaway. And also, I've got some big news, a new book. If you're looking to create financial freedom in your life and you want more abundance and you want a richer life, then make sure to check out my new book, Make Money Easy. I think you're gonna love this, and it's all about creating financial freedom. The link is below in the description, or you can go to makemoneyeasybook.com and check it out.
75% of the calories in our supermarket is 3 foods.
What are those 3 foods?
Wheat, corn, and soy.
Wow.
Yes, that is 75% of the calories in the supermarket. Now granted, most of those are ultra processed, right? So I'm here to advocate for real food. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, seeds.